Hello, my name is Dr. Katherine Weintraub. I am the adjunct professor of saxophone at Southeastern University. I'm also a private teacher in Tampa, Florida. And today I will be demonstrating and teaching the middle school all-state excerpts. I will start by playing through the lyrical all-state excerpt and providing tips on that excerpt. Then I will do the same thing with the technical excerpt. Here is the lyrical middle school all-state excerpt. When preparing this excerpt, special care should be taken with the large interval jumps. Specifically, we get one in the very first measure. So when trying to play this large interval cleanly and effectively, try not to stop the air during the interval. Keep the air consistent through those two pitches, namely the F and the A. You also may think about releasing the octave key slightly early to facilitate the A coming out cleanly. Another thing you can do is think of the vowel ah when trying to get this A to speak. That will allow the oral cavity to open up and therefore that lower pitch to come out with more ease. An exercise that you can do to help with this issue would be something that you do in band class all the time, which is the Remington exercise. I would suggest starting on your middle F and doing this Remington exercise all the way down to the low A as follows. You can then put that interval in context. Another thing that should be paid attention to in this etude are note releases, namely when they come at the end of a gesture or phrase and go into a rest. Notes like this should bleed slightly into the rest, and there should be a slight taper on these notes. There should never be any sudden releases, and there should definitely never be any tongue stops. For example, this happens a lot on the first line. Notice that on all of these pitches that go into rest, I'm letting the sound taper and bleed into the rest. Another thing you will want to do is make sure that you are accurately subdividing eighth notes whenever you have a dotted quarter note to play, and accurately subdividing 16th notes in the 4th, 5th, and 6th measure of this etude. dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da, and then the dotted quarter. Dot 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Subdividing, always very important. You should also, of course, always pay special attention to the articulations, not only just in terms of which notes are tongued, which notes are slurred, but the quality of the articulations. Tongued notes should always be played tenuto or with a do-do-do type articulation, like in the second line of the etude. And of course, dynamics are a must when preparing these etudes. Really pay attention to the soft side of the dynamic range. And it's appropriate to maybe find a peak or climax, or maybe the point at which you want the etude to be the loudest. But try to plan all of your soft dynamics around this peak and emphasize the softer, more sensitive side of your playing. I'm now going to demonstrate the technical all-state middle school etude, and then I will also give some pointers on that one as well. So, one of the main things to concern yourself with in this etude is, of course, the articulation. There are staccatos marked in the very first bar, and then it says simile, meaning you are to repeat this articulation through the entire excerpt. These staccatos should be light and bouncy, but not too clipped or harsh. I like to think more of a da, 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 dia, da, da, dia, da, 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 that kind of syllable, rather than a dit syllable. Dia, da, da, dia, da, da, da. So that always helps me kind of form that light, bouncy, buoyant articulation we're going for. Also, the note lengths of the staccatos should be consistent throughout the entire etude. It will be easy to have the notes get longer and longer as you become more fatigued playing the etude, but try to keep them in this light and bouncy style through the whole thing. In terms of articulating staccato and having it sound light and bouncy and not harsh and heavy, we want to think about the tip of the tongue barely brushing the tip of the reed. This is especially when you get into the high register of the horn, very much towards the tip of the tongue. In order to get the low register to speak, for example, in the first two measures with those low Ds, it's appropriate to use slightly more tongue on the reed to get those low notes to speak. So you might want to experiment with how much tongue you need to use on the reed for the low register versus the high register. As you can see, there are no dynamics marked in this, but I added some dynamic shaping just to add interest. So I would encourage you to do the same. If you add some soft dynamics in, it will also make it easier to make it through this entire etude in one breath, as I did. If you are not able to make it in one breath, just find a spot at the end of any of the 4 lines to sneak a quick breath in. Okay? And last thing that I did that's not written in the etude, but you can do, I put vibrato on the last note just to provide a sense of finality. With both etudes, make sure that you are consistently practicing with a metronome and a tuner, especially in the lyrical excerpt. Always start at a tempo that you are comfortable with and gradually work up to the goal tempo. And this goes with anything, always break down your practice sessions into smaller chunks and focus on your weakness before doing a run through and putting the entire etude together. Those are the middle school saxophone all-state excerpts. Good luck and happy practicing.